Mystery box, mystery box, mystery box, mystery box, mystery box, mystery box. Alright, hello Wasteland. Yes, we're back with another misery box challenge. So, it's been a while. I've had 2 attempts at trying to record one of these, and both times I either gave up or lost interest and just deleted all the footage because, you know, I need space for the actual videos that are high quality videos. So, yes, that's why it says Hypercar on here, because the plan is whenever I finish one, I'll tattoo, you know, the side of this with the name of the challenge that I've done so I don't forget. So, Hypercar is done. So, let's just jump straight into it. So, mystery box, mystery box, mystery box. What are we going to get? What are we going to get? Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Come on, what are we going to get? What are we going to get? It's this one. Alright, what's this? Mystery box, mystery box. It's, man, just look at this giant turd of a car. I mean, oh boy, where do I even start with this? This is going to be a fun challenge no matter what I roll, really, isn't it? So I don't think this car needs any introduction. It is a perfect example of all of the cheap, nasty cars that can be found in pound stores and thrift stores around the world. It has no branding, it has no company that are proud to have made it. It is a blank slate that could have come from any time period. I mean, this could have been made a couple of weeks ago for all I know. I mean, it's so old and it's so hideously ugly and cheap. That's the key word to describe this car. It is a cheap, throwaway toy car. I mean, I have basically nothing to work with because the wheels are garbage. There's no interior detail at all. And to top it off, the actual body itself is just cheap and plain and bland. Like there's no detail of any kind. This is gonna suck. This is going to be such a hard challenge. There's not a single challenge that would be suitable for this car. It's not like, oh yeah, this would really shine in a, you know, Hypertech build or a Raider Wasteland build. Like, no, this is just a bad car. Like, there has been 0 effort put into making this build. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I'm going to roll. It's going to be a sucker of a build, but let's just get straight to it, Wasteland. For team function... Oh, that didn't work. Rolled a 4, which is a ramming speed build, same as the last time. And for the build challenge, we roll a 20, which is an animal build. Oh boy. Oh man. Okay, so a ramming speed build, same as the previous challenge, except the theme, the challenge itself is to make it an animal car. Oh me oh my. What on earth kind of animal does this look at? Is there some sort of filthy, horrible bottom feeding animal? Can I base it off of that? Like those horrible shrimp things that live at the bottom of the ocean and shallow rivers. Like, oh boy. Oh, what are we going to do with this stinky boy? I mean, technically, an animal build doesn't just have to be like the Mutt Cuts inspired car from Dumb and Dumber. Like, it can be anything. It doesn't have to literally have ears on it. Although that would be an easy way of covering up all these ugly detailless sides. I'm going to have a think about this. An animal build with this as the base. This. I mean, the wheels have got to go. That goes without saying. But the rest of it, oh boy. Oh boy. Oh, I do love to challenge myself. Whoa. Alright, let's get started. So the first thing we need to do is drill out the rivets on the car. This is something you guys have seen me do before, but just in case you haven't, clamp it in place. Make sure you've got a HSS drill bit. I'm using like 2mm, I think, and away you go. Now, I knew from doing some sort of scribbles in my notebook that I wanted to remove the hood from this car and use that in some way, like twist it or open up the front radiator to really give this a menacing look. So that's what I'm doing here, and I'm using a jeweler's saw that I got off eBay. I will at some point do a video about jeweler's saws because they make life so much easier when cutting apart cars. But as you can see, it's just two roughly straight lines going down either side of the challenge car. This video isn't really a tutorial, but I am going to talk about the creative process here, so if you are sort of hoping to build something similar, you can do so at home. Now in this case you've got the peg that comes from the rivet that holds the car together, and we need to remove that. So that's what I do next, using again my little saw. And it's strange because I've used like bigger saws and they just don't go through it as easily. I mean, you will use saw blades doing this, but they're so cheap, it's remarkable. Okay, so with that done, let's just take stock of the bits of the car that we actually want to keep. The body and the hood goes without saying. We're going to be, scratching those up, and the hood will be put back on the car. It's just going to have a bit of modification. The plastic glass has just been that. It's worthless. I'm not going to use that. And as I've said, the wheels, they've got to go. So, pair of pliers, let's remove these. Now I'm pretty sure this is an older style of cheap disposable car, because newer ones tend to have smaller plastic like little grips that hold car wheels in place. These ones had these great big tabs that were part of the main plastic base, so I don't know, maybe it's like a 90s car or something like that. It's not a new like turn of the 20th century one, or 21st. So changing the bumper, I knew that the headlights and that attempt at a radiator just had to go. They're just too rubbish. So snipping those away and then using a craft knife to rough up the bumper. I mean, it doesn't need to be like perfectly flat. With this build, I'm not worrying too much. I'm just taking my time and trying to enjoy it. What little there is to enjoy about such a rubbish car. I scraped off that awful sticker that was some failed attempt at detail. Using a file just to rough up the surface. It took a bit of working, and there was still some glue residue, so that's why I got the craft knife out. But when I cut back, you'll see that it is just nice and dented up. Going for the classic little mesh effect for the front, rear and side windscreens rather than plastic, or doing bars or anything like that. And the more I work on this, the more I think about the key word of this challenge. It's animal. It's sort of feral. It's poorly maintained. It's going to be covered in like talismans and things like that. I'm not, at this point, I've pretty much decided this isn't going to be like the Mutt Cuts car. It's gonna be more kind of, it's going to be more inspired by that word rather than trying to make it look like an animal. So just in case you guys have never seen me glue mesh into a car, here we go. So as I've shown before, you just use a pair of scissors, cut out the rough shape and just put it in place. It's no stress, easy to do thing. And this applies to everything. Mesh, if you're replacing the windows with plastic or doing some like bar effects on the inside. Yeah, just do it while the body's in 2 bits. Here we have the hood temporarily in place, and I'm just getting a feel for how high I want this thing to be raised. I'm not putting an engine in this build. If the car's cheap, I'm going to make it a cheap build. There's no point like wasting super cool parts, especially if this might fail as a challenge. But I am using wheels from Kyamsil Designs because I swear by these now. They're just so good and so easy and versatile to use. And I had 4 of the little chariot spike inner alloys, so I thought, you know what, let's put those on there. So it's more of that kind of in-your-face kind of build. Going from my little scrap box of just bits and pieces, I've got numerous ones of these. I found this inside to another car project that I never finished. As you can see, it's one of the K Honeyman drivers in there. But I saw that these headlights look way better than what I had before. And rather than just having empty holes, why not cut and adapt these to fit? Now, I'm not going to, use the whole interior because it probably doesn't fit, and the driver would just become invisible, so what's the point there? But by just snipping off these headlight components, I could use those. And as you can see, or rather can't see because the lighting's a bit bad, apologies there, I'm still getting used to my current layout. I've moved from doing this in the hallway to doing this in the spare room, or the living room to the spare room. But as you can see, or can't, they do fit quite nicely and they do look pretty good there. Now there is a gap when I put the car body back together, because of course there is, between the base of the car and the headlights. I'm pretty sure that gap existed before I cut off the headlights and radiator, so a bit of scrap Plasticard, quite thin, and it just fills that. Using a paperclip, I've made a little spacer that I can rest the hood on. This creates just enough of a lift that the actual hood looks like it's pushed up by big engine supports and all this stuff without having it too high up. I've decided to try something a bit different with a radiator rather than just a straight flat down radiator. I like the idea of using paper clips yet again as a curved, almost bull bar looking thing. It's kind of hard to describe, but I'm hoping you can see from these images what I'm getting at. So here's 3 of them in place. So it still looks like a radiator. It's more pronounced, it's more brought forwards. I wanted everything in this build to have that kind of aggressive look to it, and I think doing this helped not like create the impression of fangs or anything cheesy like that, but just give it more of a dynamic look and feel. And it did help show that there is curvature to the hood, so you do need to curve those additions as well. Now, when you're doing windscreens, combine effects. You don't have to leave it at just like, oh, well, I've got my mesh in there, that's all I need. I felt that I needed to put some like supports or bars across the front, so I stuck to there using paper clips, of course, and already it really helps bring something out of this bare, ugly body that exists. Now, something I've been playing with was the idea of having chains wrapped around it, similar to like I did with my prison builds. However, the chains aren't there to like bind the car up. They're there to help give the impression that like skin or leather hides have been like stretched across the surface, like something you'd see out of like Mad Max 3. So as you can see, I've got all the chains glued in place now, and that helps really break up the look. But I did have, sadly, the rear windscreen just completely come out, and at this stage I don't feel comfortable pulling the car apart just to put that in. So I thought, well, why not have a big bit of hide that's stretched across the rear windscreen? But this being a crude, scrappy build, why not, use some Plasticard for strength and then have the green stuff stretched over that so you can still see through. Now, I'd been playing with the idea of having these doors, these spare doors from like one of my first videos so many months back, like right when I started this channel. I removed these doors for my war rig build, never used them, and I like the idea of putting them at the back of the car, almost like wings or something like that. So we'll play with that after we do the green stuff, which we are doing now. And as you can see, it's 2 parts. Mix it together, water on the hands, water on the tool, and then you can easily stick it where you want it and stretch it to look like skin. Now, I've never done this before. You know, this is a learning process for me, as I'm sure it will be for you guys if you're trying this yourselves. And you're going to make mistakes. So the key I found was once you put the green stuff in place, roughly get it in the right shape. But don't worry so much if the surface at this point isn't even, if it's not flat, because we're going to put an extra layer of green stuff on top of that, just a thin one, that will then sort of help level everything out. Because once it's dried, you can sand it, you can do all of that. Because what I'm trying to go for here is the look that the chains are holding the hides in place, rather than the chains are just there and the hides are just sort of thrown on top. But here you can see what I mean about like the chain sort of coming through, because the chain surface isn't perfectly flat. You know, this isn't something 3D printed. You know, we're doing this all by hand, so what can you say? And then to help bring out that real stretch look, using some sort of pointy, pokey clay shaping tools, we're just going up to where the corners of the chains are and just pulling back to give it that stretched look. And hopefully you can kind of see what I mean at this stage. And something I think is key with this build is, well, I've got some bits I need to replace, like those little front radiator bits really like to fall out, is when it comes to the textures of these skins, just vary it. You know, I was looking at pictures of like cavemen and like traditional leather hide work to get a feel for like what kind of materials would be out there. And you'd have like cow skins and horses and dogs and people, and you know, you'd have all sorts. It'd be a mixed bag. So get like fur textures on there as well as the flat stretched hide look. Okay, so putting the door wings in place, and it's just a simple case of making sure you've got a flat surface that you're gluing it onto. I wanted these to come out at an angle, and what you don't see here, but I cannot stress this enough, you need to put a bit of plastic or just something to support the back, because otherwise it will just flop towards the car and break off. So here they are in place, and I mean, a lot of time skips between these edits, so this isn't as quick in real life as it is in the video. But hopefully you can see at this point the kind of look and feel we're getting now. Like, the hides make it look really savage and help cover up those plain bodies. But we're also going for very aggressive, it's very feral, and there's little things that hint at animals. You know, I've not gone so far as to make big floppy ears or put big, like, Warhammer bird wings on the side of it. But I am going to use some of my stranger pieces like animal skulls and miscast bits and things that just look spiky and feral, including these little bits from the auto kill engine kit. So here we are at this point where we've put a load of the smaller, nicer details that really help bring this model out. And I think for the most part I'm pretty happy with where it is, but there's always tricks that you can use. And a lot of it comes down to scale. Like, I know for a fact that the big skull I put on there is way out of scale to everything else. But that's okay. Not everything has to be 100% like for like. And I really like to use these 15mm skeletons, which are typically used for like fantasy scale wargaming at a smaller size, because they're more in keeping with the kind of size of people that we typically see put into these cars. A lot of people love to use like the Games Workshop 28mm stuff, and that's fine, but for me I like the smaller size skulls, but they're just harder to get. So I always get like the skeleton warriors, chop the heads off and then have bits of bodies left over. However, here I can actually use some of those up by putting bits of torso and bits of arms and legs all around it. I can paint those up to look like animal bones and bits of rib cages and things, and it will just really help hammer home how ferocious this build is. But there you are, with a few more bits glued on. I think we're about ready to compare this to where we started. So here we go. Now I do want to apologise of how bright this is. I need to sort out some kind of proper backdrop. But if we just compare this to where we started with our cheap, nasty trash boy, like, it's come such a long way from what it used to look like. And it is just the use of simple tricks, simple materials, trying new things out with green stuff and just having a blast. Like, I've never tried to make anything like this before, and it looks very different to my other Raider builds. And here we go, fully painted up, and it is a whole different ball game when it's painted up. Look at this. Doesn't that look menacing? Yeah, I went for my typical sort of rust colours, and I'm sorry for how dark the shadows are on this. It's a lot lighter in real life, but like I said, I need to change the background. Get one of those like blue ones. But I tried some different things. I painted the skins in different colours. I painted that almost like wolf hide at the front, like a nice grey colour. And I tried my hand at like some tribal looking designs, so getting like a rib cage painted on the roof and these weird, almost like a tally going all the way around it. But it's also sort of symbolic of like teeth or fangs or claws, or just just really brings out the meanness, the savageness of this build, which is what I wanted. I tried painting like some silly little sort of like arm and leg bone looking things up the posts on the cab, but that's neither here nor there. But I'm really happy with how this turned out. Considering what we started with, I think this has come out great. Like, even the areas I'm not 100% on, like, I'd never tried to paint like wings on the side of a car before, so they look rough as all hell, but I'm really happy with how they look, and I'm just happy with how this turned out. So what can I say? If you stuck it out with me this whole episode, thank you guys for watching, and I hope that this goes to show that even the most trashy, nasty, cheap, worthless car can be upcycled into something pretty cool. Not everything's a lost cause, and that's kind of what this series is all about. I want to take cars that traditionally would go, oh, I got no use for this, and find a use for it. So thank you everyone for watching Wasteland. Now that we're at the end of the video, it's time for a few shoutouts. As always, thank you to our sponsors who help support this channel and keep it going. We've got Kyamsil Designs, but of course, and if you use the code JHMiniatures while checking out, you too can get 10% off your next order. And Mad Cars Green Miniatures. Although I'll say this, with the current coronavirus, you might want to wait until the stores reopen. I know that they're closed at the moment, but the code's still there and it still works. As always, thank you to V2A for providing the amazing music used in this video, and I've got to say, you need to check out their emergency broadcast podcasts that they've been doing over the last couple of weeks. Like, they are actually getting Mad Max celebrities into the show now. They've just had Emil the Feral Kid, and that's really cool because you get to see that he kept the original boomerang from the film. It was handed to him by George Miller. I mean, it doesn't get much cooler than that.
Then there was this one here. Now, I don't know if you can see, but this one has holes everywhere. It's got 3 holes here and then 3 holes on this side. And this was the one that was used from the holes that had fishing line going up to a motor that ran along a long boom. And this was the one, I call this the stunt boomerang or the double boomerang. They directed it into my hand when I caught the boomerang for the first throw.
Yeah. All right.
And it was also the one they used where it was spinning and it hit the golden youth in the head.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh my.
So you never know, I myself might be showing up in the show sometime. But it's every Wednesday and Saturday at 9 o'clock UK time, you guys. If you're in the world, if you're in lockdown like the rest of us, by all means check that out. And on the subject of the lockdown and the coronavirus, can I just say a massive thank you to everyone who was working in the emergency service industry. Can I thank everyone who's working in the medical industry around the world? I know that this current situation isn't going to last forever. We've beat tougher viruses than this. So, thank you for everyone putting in the hard work and fighting the good fight. And if you're in the listening at home mood, can I recommend that you check out Vengeful Raider and his latest Gaslands radio station that he's been working on. He does some pretty awesome bits in between the music, and he does a great take on what radio would be like in the world of Gaslands and in the apocalypse.
You're tuned in to Vengeful Raider, that's right, the most savage station in the Wasteland. So you guys, you might be cruising and bruising and looking for a fight, so you better watch out, because you might just find one. The dead men have been cruising around, still going after 3 years strong in the savage wastes. So how do I know this, you might be wondering? Well, I can tell you, brother, they cruised up to my motorhome only recently and told me they listened to the one, the only Vengeful Raider. That's right, these guys have got my backing, so you better watch your ass.
You know, he really makes it sound like a real living, breathing place. So you guys need to check that out as well. And as a final note, yes, the Patreon is gonna go live. So if you guys want to sign up now that we're in April, by all means do so. I figured I wouldn't start it until April actually rolled around, because I wouldn't want people to be like, oh, I just got charged, $10 because I put it on at like the end of March. So yes, the Patreon is now live. At the moment, I'm not in a position to do any giveaways, but I'm running out of materials, so if you want to help fund that would be great. I'm running out of paint and plastic and all sorts. Oh, it's crazy. And there's a few things I want to get for the channel, so check that out if you want, but you don't have to, but that would really help. And as always, thank you for watching Wasteland. We're almost at 4,000 subscribers, which I think is sick. So tune in for the next video where we're going to be making roads. Roads. And I'll see you then. Alright, thank you, and goodbye, Wasteland.